Hey, this is the Kubeflow Notebooks meeting for the 28th of August, 2025. This is mainly about, well, we have three different sections that we go through, usually Kubeflow Dashboard, which includes a lot of stuff. We have Kubeflow Notebooks 1.0 and Notebooks 2.0. Obviously, 2.0 is the main goal, and as always, we like to, oh, that was weird. We like to link to the 2.0 kind of FAQ thing, which explains what it is, why we're doing it. It's a full rewrite. It's got some, we've got there is a design doc here, but obviously a lot of work has happened since then. So some stuff has changed, although it is quite still relevant. The design doc's down here. You can read it. It's a Google Doc. It's quite long. The main change is obviously that we're moving to multiple CRDs that don't wrap pod spec with the goal of expansion and pluggability for different IDE types, and in the future, things that are not just wrappers, that are not just pods in the first place. So, if you want to read more about this very high level roadmap as well, there is one here. It's more about like user focused stories. We're trying to move those into epics and other things that we're going to be tracking on GitHub. That will be we'll have a nice little tracking board here, which I guess we'll go through later in the meeting, but um, the goal here is to track epics, features, plans, tasks, all these other things for Notebooks 2.0, especially post-release. Um, if you're an adopter, please add yourself to the adopters file of the notebooks itself or overall Kubeflow. If anyone's new and wants to say hi, we always give a chance for people to do that. I think it's mostly just current, most just existing people. So I think we don't have any. Oh yeah, you have one or two. So does anyone want to say hi? No, you can either do it in the chat or unmute yourself or. Okay. Um, no pressure. Let's keep going. So dashboard, Andy, what's the status on this? Obviously, we're migrating the code. We've migrated the code. We've migrated a lot of stuff. What's the blockers on release here?
So there is a big PR to do, the very big PR by Yehudit, who's a Red Hatter. 115, I think, is the PR. Something about image paths. Kimonis is actually back now, so I'm trying to get with him. I haven't been able to sync. I'm hoping tomorrow morning we can. But this PRs weren't getting reviewed, so I had Yehudit put kind of everything in one PR that I've been testing and reviewing. It needs a re-review. But then just level setting with Kimonis to make sure he's comfortable with the changes. There's an outstanding question on should we make this PR even bigger to handle like the Go mod and package import changes, since right now stuff still points to Kubeflow within source code. Yehudit tells me I haven't verified this yet, but this went through an extensive review, at least on the image renaming stuff. And so I'll verify that, but we should be much closer in that regard. So it's just syncing with Kimonis if he's comfortable with keeping this as one PR, if he wants it broken up, and the Go mod stuff. But I think the code's
So
getting
we do
very
need
close to.
to do here for me then is we really need to push those images as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's fine in this repo because and Andre can add me, but it's just very tedious. We have to get him to add me. And we need to remember to do that.
So I plan on looking at this. Like, hopefully, I can get with Kimonis in the AM tomorrow. I told him anytime 6 a.m. Eastern or later, I will make myself available. And then it's just a matter of actually getting this stuff tested, as Yehudit's addressed all of my comments around consistency and whatnot.
Yeah, because the goal here is to get a release out. Obviously, but if we then want to be able to migrate the auth code in here as well, but that's I don't know. We can debate whether that's a first or a second step. Anyway, as long as this is making progress, that's all that matters.
Yeah, so it's top of mind. We've been going back and forth on reviews this week, and like I said, I hope tomorrow I'll feel very good about the changes, modulo the Go. Like, what are your feelings there, Matthew? The code is using Kubeflow right now. Is that reasonable to just split out into a follow-up PR, or would you
Yeah, of
rather
course. I
just
mean, the goal is to get it releasable first, even if it's just to release an alpha either way, right? Like the goal is like the first release is not going to be a final release, right? So, the main things that we need to decide are stuff like, are we going to still use the same V structure? I mean, if I don't really care that much if we do or don't. But for the branch
okay?
names, like so, we also need to make sure that we name the first release 2.0, uh, or something else that's not confusing. Um, yes. Okay. Anything blocking you other than that review? If not, then let's move on.
Nope.
Okay. So we're pretty much done all that. Okay, cool. So yeah, the goal is to get a press release. Okay, notebooks 1.0. So uh, I know that we migrated the code. I haven't really seen much. Yeah, is there anything happening here? This is on the notebooks repo now.
Yeah, so Kimonis is back. He's been in touch with Leov Weiss, which is another Red Hat developer. And I have a PR that I opened this morning, Matthew, that adds Liev as an Epic owner. So him and Kimonis are going to be specking out all this work to track.
Cool. Let's make sure that we don't end up accidentally, having two parallel notebook work streams, obviously. But yeah, let's try and, we don't want to. I want to be careful to not like do any major feature changes in Notebooks V1. But yeah, we should be careful with that. Okay. So I don't know what epics there could be, other than making a release. That's my
Right, yeah,
worry.
I mean, I think that's the intent of it. It's just a singular epic that's going to get this releasable going, following a very similar dance as to what we did with Kubeflow dashboard.
Obviously, this one needs to be numbered as 1.11 because it will be
Yes.
in the same, obviously 2.0 will be the two. Yeah,
Yep.
cool. There is some additional complexity here because we need to discuss. Obviously, we're going to release 1.11 with these, but we need to discuss what our actual Notebooks 2.0 plan is for these. I don't think it's since it's a couple months away. I don't think we should probably discuss it, but we do need to make a decision before we release 2.0 about what we're going to do here.
And I added a comment to the tail end of these Notebook 1.0 notes, but I was on the ML Experience working group call yesterday, and it seems like they're going to have a use case to add the Kubeflow SDK to example server images. So we might need to like account for a change in those as well, which kind
Well,
of
that's easy
intersects.
to do. It's because again, we need to. So the issue is that I'm going to bet, well, I don't know how much complexity they have, but the issue that we've had in past is that the Python environment gets really overloaded because they conflict with each other, the versions. So anyway, we just need to be careful with that.
Yep.
Like, so previously you couldn't even install KFP and some other parts of Kubeflow because they had different dependencies on Python versions. So, like, I don't know. That needs to get, obviously that should be resolved, but I don't know. Uh, okay. Anything you want to add there, anyone? So I know we had this under here, but I'm gonna actually move these to V2 because I think this is actually it is related to V1 and V2, but we probably should do that. Okay. Okay. Yes, the Stats Canada people reached out to me and said they'll talk later again, but they're just kind of potential contributors. We probably won't use their exact thing. Uh, I guess this is something we'll just put as a step here, which is figure out what we will do with the example notebook servers for 2.0. Let's move that. Okay, let's go on. Anything else with 1.0 before we can quickly move on to 2? So obviously the goal here is to get a V1 releasable thing. Obviously we're not going to make major releases, but we just need to be able to cut a patch release effectively if we need to. Important. Anything else? Okay. So yeah, I always forget that we should make a thing which actually enforces this, but we probably shouldn't be using these silly when we make pull requests in the notebooks repo, we should probably try and reduce these strange WS things now that it's all automatic. We can probably add actual areas here if we would like, allow it to be back in front end, or we could just not. I mean, that's a debate, I guess. Anyone got any preference there? Because the area is also could be multiple as well, right? And so that's why the labels are actually the thing which does it. Um, I feel like we should just block these altogether and just say none of those. That change can be changed pretty easily by going to the GitHub action. So if someone wants to write down doing that on semantic PRs and just removing this, say, just make this empty effectively. Okay. I don't know if you can make it empty or if you have to make it explicitly denial. I'm not sure which way around it is. It's probably just empty is fine. Okay, so we are doing license scanning now. So if your PR gets blocked because of it, I don't know, that's interesting. Um, I don't know if any have been touched other than these Autobot ones. That's his dashboard, whoops. Uh, 1 hour ago, so like you should start seeing these here down here now. If you get a block on this, it won't tell you exactly what it is unless you're actually logged into the Fossa app. Uh, the goal here is to prevent doing strange or unlicensed code, using strange code things in here out of compliance with the CNCF. Obviously, you're not allowed to use GPL3 license and other things like that. So you can get exceptions though. So we need to, if we ever do get hit blocked by this, we need to either check if it's a mistake, because it's sometimes a mistake that it's like a thing that's dual licensed or something like that, um, or ask for an exception from the CNCF. Let's try and keep it clean. It should happen on the main V1 and V2 branches. I don't know if V1 right now is pathing or if we need to go through and clean up. Oh, it needs to clean. Okay. I don't know why it doesn't do that. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. So the next big thing we need to do is get Trivy scanning set up. So for V1 and V2. So this is like a security scanning thing. So um, we did prove that it was possible to have specific people be given access to see the code scanning page. So effectively, there is a space on the notebook. So I think I was on here. That's why. On here, there's nothing really in here right now, so it's not a big deal to show, which is code scanning. So what this is what we will do is this. And so we'll give certain people the ability to see this page. And what our goal is to load in a bunch of stuff in here, and so that we can actually triage it properly. Because just because a dependency has, any level of CVE, who knows if that was A, even categorized correctly, or B, affects us in such a way. So as part of the CNCF graduation thing, one of the requirements is to get the security, no, not security badge, the like, what's it called? It's called OpenSSF badge, which I don't know where it is here. There it is. And this badge here. So one of these things is that you have to respond timely and to resolve any medium or higher issues. Obviously, that means we need to actually categorize what a medium or higher issue is, and that doesn't just mean, hey, a dependency has a medium or higher issue, because what if that dependency isn't relevant to our code path, or it wasn't a legitimate issue in the upstream thing? So the way we're going to catalog all these is obviously user-reported stuff will also show up in here if they use the GitHub UI. So the goal would be to, monthly, weekly, or whenever it happens, kind of go through these, make sure if dismiss them or relabel them as lower security risks if they're actually not. And so as part of that, we need to set up Trivy to actually load things in there. So you can do that by running this action. And so we need to set this up on all the repos. So does anyone this probably we need to write this down to do this because it's a requirement to, and then we'll also need to set up a security reviewing team as well. And the way we can do that is because we're on an enterprise subscription to GitHub, because we're under CNCF, we can do that, and then we can make an internal ACLs that is a member of that team. I think we might have already done that. We were just testing it out. So Eder might have access to this, although I think because we didn't create it with internal ACLs, it might have got removed automatically, the new team.
Let
I
me
don't know.
check here.
Yeah, it should be on the notebooks repo specifically.
No,
I
for the
think you,
notebooks, for the notebooks, I don't on the security
yeah, so I
page.
think you did for a bit, but I think the issue is that we need to create so we need to make an internal ACLs PI, this one here, that has, that's called Kubeflow dash security. And then we can add whoever we want to trust to be part of that review process. Obviously, it's a very trusted position, but because security related, and you'll be able to see disclosures from users. But yeah, so we need to remember to do that. Let's put this on the list. So yeah, so this is actually already done. and then we've done this already. This one needs to be done in internal ACLs. So effectively, so does anyone who's the first members do we think of this new team?
I mean, I'd say probably like me, Eder, and Paulo, or Eder, if you don't want to make, I don't know how much time Eder really has.
No, myself, yeah, because I'm starting with the machine learning experience working group. So, but if you can add myself and Paulo to review the front end on this.
Yeah, because I mean, well, having it is fine, but it's just the question is how we can actually like who's going to be responsible to respond to them. Like we need to kind of both all like I'll do some of them obviously, but like we need to kind of have a plan, right? Especially once people start raising them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for the front end, for everything that's going the front end, Paulo and myself can reply.
Yeah, well, we just need to like have a policy and like a process. What I mean is like, are we going to be doing it just as it comes in? What's the process going to be for like a high level of vulnerability? We need to have like a process to because when like the upstream dependency ones, sure, that's just going to be random stuff. But like when actual users are using this, they're going to raise them against us. You know what I mean? And they're going to be like, hey, this is actually very serious, or maybe we need to evaluate if it is or not. You know, uh, so maybe we need to have like a security uh, scrub, if you will. You know, once a month at least, and then have a policy
Oh,
for
yes.
when things actually get raised. Obviously, because they get raised whenever, and you get 90 days usually before people disclose publicly. So, yeah. Anyway, so it's so like as part of this, it is yes about just getting the dependency ones done, but it's also about
I
um,
understand. Yeah, makes
yeah,
sense.
because obviously you want to be a secure project, right? People will, people are going to use notebooks for very sensitive things. So, okay.
Matthew, can you talk about this on Slack in a private channel or not? Do you know if CNCF Slack has proper security?
It depends on what you mean. So private channels, no one can see them by default, not even admins.
Because one thing that we can do, we can create this list, like Andy, myself, Paulo, and you, and then we can create a private channel that because usually those things are for sure should have meetings, but also when something pop ups, you need to do a quick discussion.
Yeah, we should definitely do that at least, yes.
Yeah,
But yeah, we need to probably have a process to like scrub through them though as well. Anyway,
yeah.
so I just wanted to highlight. So what we need to do here is we need to create the ACL scanning thing to upload
Hmm.
the things from the two branches. Uh, this needs to be done on all of our repos, but this is one of them. Okay, anything else anyone wants to add about scanning or security related things before we move on? I just wanted to get that because that's kind of blocking graduation a little bit, at least on the V1 side. We need to do it on the V1 side, but
Yeah. So in the next steps, Matthew, just for us to have something to reply on the next meeting, we are going to set up this group, right? And then we are going to triage the current ones.
well, for V1, we just need to evaluate if there is any
Yeah,
serious issues.
this is triage. You need to see all of them and see if there are serious issues with the code base, right?
And yeah, for V1, and we then need to determine what we're gonna do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
Because again,
yeah. Well, for V2, I always have the suggestion of having dependent bot because it's been super helpful with model registry.
I think it already is
Wait,
there, right?
does it create PRs?
I don't know if I don't know if it knows about the V2 branch. It's probably the problem.
Yeah,
But
yeah. This is configuration because on a model registry, it's super cool to have those things there.
yeah, we can make that work. Yeah, so I'll add that
Yeah.
to the list. But
But this requires like if there is not nobody with the eye on this, the pull requests fill up. You know, someone have to go like every week is on the model registry. I split the work with Mateo. I do the front end and Mateo do the back end. But is every week
so
I work every week.
the issue is we need to have a lot more testing. Uh, have
Oh yes.
reliable E2E tests, reliable and comprehensive on notebooks V2 before we enable dependabot. You know what I mean? Like this is like definitely the case for that. For V, like but then we need to investigate how to tell dependabot about the notebooks V2 and notebooks V1 branches so it will actually raise PRs. Yeah, because we need to actually do that. But I think we need to actually have tests. If tests aren't there, then it's super dangerous to merge any change from any dependable.
Yep, and usually if it takes more than 5 minutes, you just don't look at that because this will be a long time. And the model registry you have a good suite of tests, so you basically trust the builder.
Andy?
This internal Kubeflow internal ACLs, is someone create like who owns creating that, Matthew? Like
Anyone, literally anyone can do it.
Okay, but nobody is doing it right now, so we need someone to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we just need to. I think the good thing we need to agree on is the list of people who are going to be in it.
Okay, so I mean,
Do you have
start
the
out and
agreement?
agree that me, Eder, you, and Paulo is that list, and that'll be the initial PR, and we can always edit it.
I don't need it. I mean, actually, maybe I do need to be in it for weird reasons because this code scanning thing. But we can also probably just add the leads as a member of that. Oh no, we can't. No, okay, yeah. Okay, that's fine. Matthew, and so like technically, other people with write access and admin access on the repo can also see it, but for the people who are responsible to review it, because also it can be a taggable group. We can make it a taggable group so that people can mention it, or a signable group. Uh, of course, people shouldn't be raising things publicly, but yeah. Does Polo want to be involved?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. And so we'll set up and then
We need Andy on this list and not two of myself, right?
I was assuming that means you're doing all my work for me, Eder.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh no, I'm good.
I
Thank you.
endorse that.
I'm
I
just gonna
push
say
already too much stuff for you, Andy.
select channel for security note reviews on notebooks. Okay, we should do that. Okay, cool. Let's do that.
And then the trivia stuff, Matthew, can anybody raise that too?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's probably best if someone who can see the things can do it so that they can see if it works, but yeah.
Okay.
Um, so also add Andre Kimonis to the channel. For now, I mean, let's probably just leave it at that for now. I mean, Julius probably as well, probably, because he is gonna because a lot of the issues that are actually seen as notebook issues are actually manifest issues. You know what I mean? Like they're not strictly speaking our fault. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, it's independent about. We'll come back to the following that up next week or whenever we actually have enough tests to do that. What's happening with here?
So yeah, I'm working on the code that will get the to capture the namespace from the central dashboard and so I just want to ask, like, I think there was a comment when I was on vacation 2 weeks ago about the mechanism we're using right now, and I just want to ask, like, if we have any, if we're okay with the way we're going forward, or does it need to change? Because right now we are grabbing the script from the central dashboard and get an event handler.
So I've
Um,
just checked that those event handlers are correct. Like, so A, just like do a sanity check, right? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and look at that. So we will write a better V2 dashboard code thing at some point, probably. But I just feel like there's some security changes in Chrome that might have made stuff less likely to work. But over the past few
Yeah,
years, and I think, but we do have examples of working ones. So
yeah.
checking both the notebooks 1.0 and also pipelines, like because they use the same thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and so, but also just
Yeah,
have a critical mind. Be like, we should make a V2 of this. So like, whenever especially for the Angular release as well, but even if before then. So like, you're able to do that if you want. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying.
I see. Okay, okay. I will. I am checking the existing working examples and just following their lead there. I
And
think
so when you say
especially from
examples,
pipelines.
yeah. So did you just copy from pipelines or whatever, or did you? Because like I think that README was out of date, is what I'm saying.
I think right now the that could be the only way to make it work.
The README one.
The one, I think the README is not there anymore. Last I checked yesterday, but I'm not sure if there's like some documentation changes. But I'm digging into the code base, and the
It's
one
because
from the
the
README
dashboard
should be
repo
the
now
other one.
has that. It's because the dashboard repo now has that code.
Okay, okay, that dashboard repo. Yeah, I'm using that one and trying to see. I don't think there's a newer implementation that's trying to say.
Not on the README, but like I'll just like check how Pipelines is doing it. I need to go check. I need to find it myself. But
I
yeah,
will
so
do
yeah,
that. Yeah,
obviously
I'll
once you've
check
got a
what.
PR to review, if you've got a PR to review, we can go through it more specifically then. Because I just want to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and be like, consider all the possibilities, and so that when you can then make a decision if we want to also improve the dashboard's code as well, to make it handle this better for, especially for group support, because we're doing groups as well. So like, anyway,
Yeah,
anything you
yeah, I'm
need
for.
from us then, or?
Yeah, no, I just want to check what the comment was, but yeah, that makes sense. I'm checking how Pipeline is doing it, and as well as going to dashboard and see if there's anything else that I need to take a look at.
Okay, cool. I'll put that under your. Okay, let's keep going. Anything? Okay, FX. We need to. Okay, so Andy, we're gonna. So what's the actual status on like migrating to the new Epic structure and cleaning up this repo? As it's this doc, sorry.
It's I mean, going slow. I have a few epics created, but then I wanted to start to talk about some implementation issues on that. So I'm just time boxing that amongst everything else that I'm doing. But I think 5 or 6 at least epics have been created, and I'll continue to chip away more and more at those. So it's ongoing.
Also, I think it might be possible. I need to check. Like, this is actually something as well to check about. Is it possible to give someone the ability to edit someone's issue without giving them the ability to label it? I don't know, right? I'd have to check because on the new because we have this ability to create these custom roles now, So this is something to maybe check.
Yeah, I don't think the epic descriptions will need to be changed that much, but I can so we can I don't view that as a blocker, right?
Okay,
With
cool.
people being able to add remove sub issues, that's kind of the big one. Fielding questions or comments to change descriptions is I'm easily able to handle that in the short term.
Cool. Okay, so what's the thing to actually get this uh
I
yeah.
mean, just time, right? I mean, the CNCF, like, reviewing Kubeflow dashboard PRs, there's just a lot of stuff to go on. So I'm trying to get like, time boxing it a little bit every week to go is kind of where it's at.
Yep, cool. Because obviously I don't want it to become like a situation where we are uh blocked by it in any way. But yeah. Like where it's like making it not blocked, but like making it slower to develop stuff. Okay. Because I feel like we need to make either a stopgap effort to clean up the current tracking, otherwise, like because there's a lot of stuff going on here that I'm not like I have a good idea of what's going on, but I don't know if I mean I don't know what's going on specifically, but I know what we should be doing. But like we need to make sure that other people also know how to prioritize what they work on. Um, of course,
Agreed.
you can help do that, and Eric can help do that, but it's just helping people make that decision independently is also even better, especially for other people who don't work at Red Hat. Okay, so is there anything we want to go through here now? So like if we're going through the epics, what are we actually going to look at right now? It's like our goal for right now, I guess we should probably reiterate, is to get an end-to-end deployable wherever it is. I don't know what that is under pre-plans, but the goal is to get it deployable end-to-end, obviously, and this will allow us to run end-to-end tests. This will allow us to, on the front end and the back end, which we don't have right now, we only have it on the controller, which will enable so many other things. It will help us find where there's issues for connections and other things like that. So that means deploying a dashboard on a real cluster with notebooks in it and running a notebook in it. We should try to get to that point, even if it's not perfect.
So,
Uh,
I mean, some of this is time, right, Matthew? We have that script that I pointed to that me and multiple people are using right now, but what we need to get from that, which is functional, to something that we'd want to include in the repo, we just need to talk about, right?
but that's about development. I'm meaning more like we should be able to have, even if it's not a perfectly working product, a series of steps that an end user could run. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like what not like it's not actually going to be the install guide, but it's like just apply this, create a cluster, apply this, apply this, apply this, apply this, and then it's like, yep, that actually does something. Even if 90% of it doesn't work, but then from there, because then we can start looking at it and being like, hey, what doesn't work? Where is the minimum change required to get it to something that is usable?
So I guess like these steps, right? I have a script and a wiki on my fork that does, well, I'm not installing it from upstream. I'm pulling from Kubeflow right now, but like we just need to like review and finalize what it looks like so I can happily um change the scripts and stuff that I'm doing to pull from upstream, and then we can just I can create a PR to add a README or something if you would want right now. But I mean, I think we're like ready to do that because we're literally doing that right now.
Yeah, because like showing people that it is deployable, even if it doesn't work properly, is better is a good sign, right? And then we can do that, show that to people.
So the first step, you would like a wiki. So just open up a P like or like I guess it's not a PR, right? Just open up a create a wiki on the thing.
I mean, specifically, however we do it, it should be like we should just be able to get it running on a random cluster. So like, what's blocking us from being able to do that right now? Is there anything blocking? Is there anything that needs to be merged that you would need to?
I mean, like if we get this front end makefile PR merged, then that like makes the front end steps a little nicer. But like the
But there's no
makefile,
Docker images being built. You know what I mean? Like we need to get those built. Some
those
of them
we've already reviewed and merged.
pushed.
Those were merged
I
like
mean,
a
onto
month
to a
ago.
registry. They need to be on a registry.
Oh yes, okay, that's
So
fair.
like that's not like that. Like in my mind, there is like acceptable steps and unacceptable steps. Building and pushing a Docker image is not an acceptable step for this README. If you know what I mean. Like this is more like it's a like for development, of course, but this is more like, hey, I've never seen Notebooks 2.0 run end to end. Anyone, right? No one's ever seen it, right? Like I want to see that happen and have it be. And then obviously we can build nightly images or whatever. That's fine too. But it's just uh, it's because that's the minimum step. Automating all that stuff is the minimum step to getting a release, like that's kind of and then there is stuff blocking it, like to use it. But just having it deployable is a great step, and I think it will be a great win for the
So
project.
should we
And
start pushing images with a latest tag?
just hashes, I think. I don't need. I think we shouldn't have a latest tag, honestly. The latest is always dangerous. But
Okay.
um, so similar to how we've done a lot of learnings on how to do on the dashboard and 1.0 stuff. So, you know, I think like we only have 3 images that need to be built. So, it's not, and then we can agree on their names and it's good, right? I mean, that's a great pipe cleaning kind of, you know, flow, because there will be something that we don't realize is wrong, like, oh, the builds don't work or something like that, like, and then once we've got that, then it's, yes, there'll be a separate development guide. So separately, we probably should have a development guide. Um, that's a debate as to whether that should live in a README or that should live in a wiki. Uh, and
All
it
right,
is
so I can
separate.
start to spec out work. So we want to just create publish GitHub actions aligned with, dashboard notebooks V1 style stuff.
Yeah, and so the goal would be that the steps right now would be very, very basic. Would be like, hey, go to this commit, or because we don't have tags, go to this commit of the notebooks v2 branch and apply these manifests. You know what I mean? Like kubectl apply these ones. Well, of course, there's some other steps as well, previous steps, but then those manifests can actually have. Actually, that might be a slight problem because that's a good thinking actually, because we need to, the way that the v1 branch used to do it, or notebooks v1 used to do it, is that we used to have to, obviously the manifests have to actually have the image tag referenced in them, right? And so in the repo they shouldn't have a tag referenced in them, so they usually only get that in a release branch. You know what I mean? So it's a debate. Maybe we should go to release branch. I don't know, it seems too early, but maybe the steps should include replacing the image version manually. You know what I mean? Maybe that is the minimum step. Uh, like doing a customize apply and then having a tag replace in there. You know what I mean? That's that's probably what we should say. Yeah, because also
So
that's how
just
we.
like your customized like set image style thing is just one of the instructions right now.
Yeah, but don't actually say to go into the YAML, but just like say, you know, this is the currently tested commit for the manifest and the currently tested tag from that commit, which should be the same number. Because again, the way we should actually build the image tag. Well, we shouldn't build all the image for all the tags, so not everyone will be available. But you know what I mean? Like, it should be. Well, no, for we could make anyway. That's fine. We can come back to that later. But effectively, just however it's done, it's like it's saying do all these steps to set up the cluster from a scratch. You know, create a kind cluster, create a K3D cluster, whatever. Then apply the controller using this command, which it points to a specific commit from customize. But in that command, we set the actual tag because the tag will have no meaning otherwise. It's not. But in a real world release, obviously the manifest will include the tag for that release. But the I don't want to do that I don't want to do it with the latest. You know what I mean? Because that might break. You know, especially because latest we just shouldn't. Latest is just a bad thing. It should never have happened. It should never have existed in the first place. So I don't think we should push latest tags at all. But the okay, and that's so anyway. So to get that, because and that shouldn't be too hard. I don't think but well, if there's a problem, it will be. That's the goal, right? To find any problems.
So is Kubeflow, like if we start to publish, like do you need to set up any registry repo? Because we haven't published from the V2 branch yet, right? So do we need to get that created so the permissions are correct?
It's exactly the same as V1, right? We need to, so there should be a GitHub container registry, wherever this is gone here, like, well, I don't think we've got any in here yet, but if we look at, it'll be under here, packages. So like, these kind of hide the prefixes based off the repo that they come from. But if we look at Kubeflow, also, by the way, doing this is going to cause us a lot of users to actually start trying to use it, but that's fine. I don't care. They're not going to be able to use it. That's fine. But it's going to put pressure, which is good. So yeah, and effectively, these don't need to get created manually. They're created by first push, but we can do that in the same way that we create the dashboard ones. And
But I
that's
thought like you needed to be involved in the first push to get this stuff set up.
Yeah, so that someone actually owns it who's able to manage it. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, if we can get that, if
We
you
agree
can
on the
get that
three
done,
images. What are the three images then? So is there only three, or are we going to do more than that as well? Like, so.
I don't see why we wouldn't. I think in my mind, let's just do controller. You know what I mean? The three we have: controller, front end, back end.
Oh yeah, and also the examples are just going to use the old example images. Yeah, 100%. Oh, that's the other thing as well. That step is going to highlight that, hey, someone needs to actually create their workspace kind as well, which is great. You know what I mean? Like, and then we'll suggest use the example one from here, and we can have a sample. It starts pipe cleaning the idea of saying, we're now almost at the point where you can actually deploy it. You know, there's definitely things that aren't going to work, but getting it to that end-to-end state is going to make it a lot easier to make people see it as real. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm saying. That's yeah. And so they're
Okay, so
more likely to contribute.
publish GitHub Actions and an end-to-end install doc is kind of critical next steps here.
Yeah. So to be clear, so there's two published actions, one that's on release and one that's on like build on commit effectively. You know. And so that's the one we're talking about here, where we do publish images just like we do for all the existing notebooks 1.0 and dashboard stuff in the Kubeflow repo. Obviously, we're still doing it, setting it up in the dashboard repo. But I think if anyone disagrees with me here, I think getting a end-to-end deployable thing is going to be really useful for people. But I think it's the top priority in some sense, because yeah, like getting development end-to-end, yes, but they yeah, the only difference between doing this in development and not is that you'll be building your own image from an unreleased commit, right? That's the
Yes.
only difference.
Exactly.
So and hopefully doing it automatically if you're using the interactive development tools. Like we need to fucking get that tilt thing finished. But especially now that we have manifests for the front end and back end, we can actually standardize them all. Maybe we should even move the tilt one level up. You know what I mean? Like we talked about, right? I think that's partially why we didn't merge it, because we didn't like all three are necessary to actually do any testing. So, cool. Anyone got anything they're worried about there? So that's the short-term goal. There is other goals, obviously, around updating workspaces and stuff. Let's go through the stand up if anyone has it, or unless like the Epic owners used to have to go through what they were doing, but so this is already done, right?
Yeah, well, so I've just kind of abandoned this because we have the project boards now that are a little better at highlighting this.
Yes, we already did this, right?
We haven't done anything like I just went through and like manually triaged, like I've triaged everything that was out there, 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if we need to automate this right now.
Yeah, no, because don't need to automate it. No, no, no. I'm just saying. So did it actually get? Does this still the case? Is what I'm trying to say.
This is on dashboard. I'm not sure what you're.
Yeah. So the epics don't get it. Yeah, so only user ones do, which is fine. That's still correct. Yeah, this is good. Uh, wait, adding. Interesting. We probably do need to think about that. Okay, look. Okay, so what is the project board? Let's look at it. So I'm gonna put you in the spotlight here. So what's our steps to get this to be the way that we're tracking everything so that people can understand what we're doing?
So I mean, the biggest thing, right, is we got to start closing some epics. We have like, one or two tasks here or there that like keep stuff open, which makes it, difficult. But you can kind of see these ones 9 through 14 I have, added, but we got to start closing stuff so we can really get like a real Gantt style realistic timeline put together to give people confidence, we'll have, when stuff can be ready. Um, and then like so, here this isn't as like I said, the Gantt style stuff is good for like high level planning, probably not as interesting for this call. And then like the plan features, which again, as we get more epics closed, that plan features tab I think is probably the more interesting for the scope of this audience in the working group call, to get a that kind of replaces the bullet point list we were doing in the working group, um, in terms of the statuses of the epics.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how we should like. So what's the flow going to look like in a meeting? Like, so we're gonna like, and the purpose of it. So like, we're obviously the goal of the epics is to include all the overall tasks. So like, for example, there's a question as to like, oh, so the task I just said, right? The one we're trying to get an end-to-end deployable thing. That needs to be an epic, right? Or is that under
It's
repository
number
stand?
it's number 8.
There you go. So like, this needs to be like number one on the list. You know what I mean? Oh, interesting. What is it sorted by?
It's sorted by
Oh,
start date
date.
right now.
Yeah. Where is it? Nine. No, 8. Interesting. So it's because this start date, wait, is it start date or end date that it's sorted by?
Sorted by start date.
I guess that makes sense, kind of. Uh, I mean, these are kind of connected, you know what I mean? But like, so this looks like obviously this is not going to hit that date, so I'm going to put that as that. uh, yeah.
This is
Okay.
just waiting on so that 274 is waiting on the secrets PR, which I think that we should just merge without unit tests, Matthew, so we could close this out and I can always create a separate epic, but it'd be nice to get
I,
this.
I should add the one unit test that I did add as well. Yeah, I do need to merge
Sure.
that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but there these kind of this like I want to be end-to-end deployable by the end of next week. You know what I mean? There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that by then, I don't think.
Okay.
Not for yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that before then. And just so that this actually gets here, I'm gonna move that to there. Oh no, it needs to be way more than that.
Yeah, it's because that open SSF is like all the way up to April. I think we should just change this to be arbitrary ordering. You can like start dates are fine, but I think we should just be able to reorder this at any given time based on point in time priority. So I feel like we should just go remove the order by here so we can just drag.
Yeah. Where's the order by sort
I can
by
I can deal with that after the call.
no sorting. There we go. Yeah. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah. There. And so number one is that. Sure. That's kind of number one. Number two is that. Wait, what? Okay, that. Number three is what?
I think we should do this after the recording. I can do a proposal and we can talk about it in Slack.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to agree on what the top priority though is though as a project, right? Do we all agree on what the project top priority is? Like when we need to set end dates as well. So anyway, we can come back, but like I feel like we do need to agree.
Absolutely do. I don't know if like this yes, we absolutely do. If people want to stay on the call, we can have this conversation now. That's totally fine. But if people have more pressing technical things, I can appreciate that
Yeah,
as
if they
well.
need reviews, yeah. So if they need, so we can do the stand up and check what people are blocked by, if people have tasks they've been working on or not. Uh, but we should definitely come back to this soon. We don't have infinite time after the meeting this today, so let's quickly go through the people's stand ups. So, uh, who wants to go first? Anyone can feel free to do so. Okay. Well, I guess Jenny, you're first.
So yeah, just continuing to work on that shared library styling. So Guillermo is working on, has been working on testing those latest updates from that ModArch shared library that we talked about last time and pulling it into notebooks to test. He's pointed out some styling inconsistencies that went in with those changes. So I'll be looking in the upcoming sprint on fixing those issues and those inconsistencies that we're seeing due to some overlapping styles there. And then that's an ongoing discussion that I think we've been discussing with Eder and the folks on the model registry team as well, as far as relocating this shared library over to Kubeflow potentially. So that's currently a discussion that we're having at the moment. And yeah, we'll have more updates to share there as we go along there and figure out what works best for the team.
Cool. I mean, yeah, obviously, as soon as two people are now consuming from the same thing, it should be interesting to see the conflicts that happen. But yeah, versioning and other things are the parts that I'm trying to understand. But
Yeah, Matthew, this is one thing that I talked with Andre to have this on Kubeflow, and they told me let's do this conversation later. That's why we created and opened the hub.
yeah, so if it's versioned with the thing that it's styling, that makes sense as well. Like, because I thought
It
that,
is version it's version with main, right? We do upstream always. And we should keep both updated. And we do a release every time that we do cut out multiple releases on this.
so what I'm saying is like the actual, like, is this the only thing that's being styled by this? You know what I mean? Like whatever is in this library.
I don't get the question.
Like, so there's obviously a bunch of utility, like pre-made tools, right? That's kind of what this is, right? A bunch of pre-made
Yes.
library
Yep.
devices, no devices, what do you call it? Library of
It's things that we develop in model registry that the notebooks you probably need to have as well to avoid copy and pasting the code.
sure. And obviously these styles only apply to those things, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it makes sense to version them together in that case. Because
Yep.
specifically, we will at some point we're going to get behind, or someone's going to get behind, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And and,
And
and,
so,
and, and this is our we can do release. This is basically owned by the model registry team and the notebooks team for now. And it's mostly Jenny that is doing work here. It's basically to Jenny don't have to copy and paste in multiple
yeah,
code
yeah.
base.
I agree with that in general, but like obviously, as soon as you have a common dependency, there is a risk that someone wants to do something that's incompatible
Oh
with
yeah.
what someone else wants to do. And I feel like that's going to happen pretty quickly, I'm sure. So, what is our policy in that situation? You know, what is the like who gets to win, or do we just have two versions of a very similar component? You know, like what, you know.
Mm, we will figure out the agreement.
Mhm. Because also there's always the option that we can just add whatever we like to our own code base, right? I feel like that's probably we should, and then the question becomes what should live here? You know, like what is the level of commonality that needs to exist? You know, what's an example, by the way, of something in here?
It's modern Kubeflow, for instance, in the teaming.
What do you mean by theming?
Yeah, because we write in pattern fly and we convert from material Y.
Sure, but I mean, like, is there anything beyond coloring and padding and stuff like that
It,
that's in?
yeah, there is some code that we use that utility functions on that.
Mhm. Okay, well, anyway, I don't think we need to go too much into detail. I just
Yeah,
saying like,
because this is just his because they saw we don't want to create a new repository in Kubeflow and you put on Open Data Hub and maybe use it for both teams.
yeah, once people start actually using it, I think it's just like, you know, once it's proven that it's a dependency of multiple Kubeflow projects, it makes sense. Otherwise, it's just a
Yeah,
dependency, right? Otherwise, it's just a
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Otherwise, it's like just one package living
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's like if it becomes part of Kubeflow, but then again, the thing that I'm skeptical until I see it happen is that we'll actually want to be both using the exact same code at the exact same time. But you know,
But this is the reality right now.
sure.
If this changes, we can adapt in future.
Yep, it's fine. Okay, anything blocking you, Jenny?
No, that's it. Yep, thanks for the discussion there.
Okay, cool. Andy, let's move on from you for a second, I think,
Yep.
probably, or do you want to, yep. Eder, what have you been working on?
Yeah, nothing on notebooks so far. I'm waiting for the security audit to have access to keep the open SSF badge.
Yeah, so like
But
that's
as soon
a
as
good
yeah, because
point.
what I did on the open SSF, Matthew, I did everything until we have the security.
Working with notebooks
Security, as soon as I have access.
team to triage issues raised on notebooks v1 branch so we can close out the open SSF badge to 100%. Yeah. So once again, we can't just close it out immediately, but as soon as we've got the process in place and we're actually working on it, we can say,
Oh
yes, we're
yes,
doing.
yeah,
That's
yeah. But
the
the
only
badge
requirement.
is the badge is blocked my progress until we have the access for this because those are the last questions that we need to
So
reply.
we need to. So will you be able to at least help with setting up the Trivy? Because you need to do that on every repo, right? So like it's not just this repo. So
No,
if you learn,
for notebooks.
yeah, but what I'm saying is you also are involved in model registry, for example. So if you learn how to do it, then you could do that quickly over there as well.
For model registry.
I'll take that. That's fine. I'll talk with Eder about it offline. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you do you want to raise the internal ACL? It's literally will work if you it literally will work on notebooks.
Yes, I will get a
Or do
PR
you want
to
Eder to do
internal
it, or do you
ACL
want
this afternoon.
if Eder is blocked by it though, he should do it.
That's right. We're all
but should we nominate everyone? We have agreement, right?
Yeah, we said those people up here.
And what is the ACL that we need to create the group? Is there on the document
That's
as
what I'm
well?
saying. You need to create an internal ACL GitHub team called exactly this. Has to be exactly this.
Yeah, that's my question. What's the exact name? Is Kubeflow Security?
Yeah. With no access listed in the ACL YAML because it was manually added to the repo with the custom security group on the Kubeflow org.
So sorry, it's just called Kubeflow Security. It's not scoped to notebooks. So
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Kubeflow. Fuck, you're right. My brain is broken. It's called Notebook Security.
that makes more sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good catch. I was typing the wrong thing. Okay.
And manually add to the HEP is just that's the second part is that I don't add anything for the ACL. Just create the group.
Yep. The ACL
and the
already
users.
exists. Yeah. So and this is just and the we still use so it's all GitOps because we still use that repo to do it. But the actual manual allocation of each repo to that thing needs to be done by an admin because it's not supported by the GitOps to use the custom security group. This is effectively just a role called role. It's called security role. Cool. Sorry, I just because I want to get that done by today so that we can actually kind of.
Yeah, I do this effort just to make sure too.
Okay. Okay. Hashad.
Yeah, from my side, I didn't get the time this past week, so not big updates, but I did discuss a few things with Andy, and we discussed like the end-to-end test where we wanted to install the STO configuration. Maybe we can split that up, and someone else can take it from like I can hand it over to someone else.
When you say Istio configuration,
We
End-to-end
wanted
test.
to do end-to-end tests, right? For
yes.
end-to-end tests where we wanted to also do spin up of STO and everything, all the configuration.
That should be pulled from the manifest repo.
Yeah, that part, right? Like we wanted to add that in the notebook 2.0. That was a second task here.
The end-to-end testing, right? But you should be able to just pull the manifest you need. Again, the goal is to pull it from the dashboard repo once it moves there. But like the end-to-end test should be install. Oh, you mean to install Istio? It's also it
Yeah,
is 9 a.m. by the way. If people need to go, we've probably only got
yeah,
about another
it's
like
for the
15 minutes.
installation. Yeah.
Okay,
So that part I'm like maybe someone else can take over. So that's what we were discussing.
that's fine. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get. So as long as someone will work on it, that's good.
So I have
Yeah.
and that's one of my, I'll speak to that on my update.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
cool.
I'll continue to complete the 507 and 500 this week. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's keep going on that. That's good. Anything blocking you?
Nothing from here.
Okay, cool. Okay, Charles, I'm just gonna go to people who are. Oh, you've already done your thing. That was the namespace thing you're working on. That. Anything else you want to add there?
No, I'm gonna test it on. I think I found a solution, and I'll test it, and
Cool.
I'll update my PR accordingly.
Great. Good luck. Good news. Okay. Anything blocking you for anything else?
No.
Okay, cool. Who else is in the call still? Anyone who hasn't gone who wants to stay, please do. Who else has a puller?
Yeah, this week I'm working on some internal stuff, so nothing to
Okay.
say.
Cool. Anything that is you can see blocking you when you do need to come back?
No, not at the moment.
Cool. Okay. Other people. Okay, sorry, Andy, I've forgotten about you.
Yep, that's okay. Really, it's just that like, are you blocked things, like things that are important to cover. FOSSA access, I've pinged Andre and Robert K, who should be like the guy, but he hasn't gotten back to me, so I still can't access FOSSA. I'll continue to nag people on Slack. Workspace update API, I know you're busy, Matthew, but like getting that opened up so we can follow patterns will help us start to work on redirects as well as the workspace kind update because we'll have a pattern there. And then the secrets PR, as I said, I think we should just merge what you have and we can always do tests later, but that'll let us close one of those epics. In terms of future things that I'd like to start delegating work to, as Harshad said, sorry, Istio, I have a link I can paste in our chat here. I was just curious on thoughts on install as Istio upstream itself doesn't expose manifests. I wasn't sure, and it seemed weird to like pull Helm as a dependency. We can do some weird stuff around grabbing a release tarball and exploding it. We can install Istio CTL. We could do some hokey thing where we like pre-render manifest files and check those into a test resource. But I was just kind of looking for initial inclinations on how we wanted to go about getting Istio in there.
I thought how did we do it in this repo? We did it in is it releasing? No, there was I think, was the code removed? No. How did they do it here? What is this?
And so if we want to like follow this pattern, but do
Oh
this
yeah, that
all
would
within,
work because that effectively is what you're saying, right? Like that
yes.
doesn't make a controller, right? Does that use the operator that or does it not use?
This one doesn't. This one just installs manifest directly. It will help.
So this is how you're meant to get the manifest, I guess. Then yeah.
Yes. So if you're comfortable now, but then obviously this would live because with Cert Manager and the Prometheus one, even though Prometheus is commented out, this all exists as like a setup hook in Go code. So we'd want to more or less implement this, but doing exec calls in Go.
Yeah, the only issue is that removing Istio is very hard. You know what I mean? And I don't know. There might be a Istio CTL uninstall as well. I'm not sure. That's the other question. Is like, would we want to uninstall Istio? Then probably, right? You know. So like, it's if it wasn't already installed, I think that should be the same policy as what we do for the other stuff, which is if the thing
Yeah,
is.
and so I have all of that kind of like it was this fundamental question on, but like
Is
the
there an
hooks.
Istio CTL command for checking if Istio is installed?
Yes, and it is. I haven't tested it, but documentation implies that it is like it should work across versions, right? It's not like it checks to see that one specific version is involved, and like that's the. I
But
forget
does
the
it
exact
also
command. I have it in
work
my notes, but yes.
if your namespace is non-default? Because some people go crazy and install Istio in random namespaces. But yeah, anyway.
Yes, so there is, well, yeah, so in our case, yeah, there is a Istio namespace flag. You can pass the Istio CTL. So I think at least to get us started, I would like to treat this as let's use Istio CTL. You can set profile to minimal, which will give you just the basic stuff that we use: ingress gateway, destination rule, authorization policy, yada yada yada.
Like
Enable.
honestly, the profile. What's interesting about that, by the way, is like I personally don't view those gateways as part of Istio. You know what I mean? Like they probably shouldn't be. Like it's not how like people can like people but it requires you to have a service or other things like that. You know what I mean? And so like I view those as deployment specific. But like is there a policy for like don't install anything other than Istio itself?
I guess I don't know what you mean by Istio itself. There's the Istio CTL has this profile argument, and then you
Yeah,
can
I'm
on top of that.
familiar.
I wasn't sure how we plan on testing this. I figured we'd need a gateway because we're going to.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is maybe we should be more explicit about creating the gateway with a command or with manifests that live somewhere. You know, like it's because we already do that in. Actually, no, we don't. The thing is, just in the real world. Yeah, so apparently default does what I was expecting. Yeah. No, default does this. Interesting.
So I was looking at the minimal profile, and then there is a flag that can say include ingress gateway.
Interesting. Yeah, because like I wonder if we should be explicit about creating and then removing a gateway. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I'm more saying. Being like for the test purposes, especially so that you can run concurrent tests. But no, you can't run concurrent tests other way. But the yeah, so like this minimal makes sense. This is the one I was expecting more, right? Yeah, like this. But because that's what I'm saying, Istio-D and the webhook, that's what I call core Istio, right? But people often view this as part of core Istio, but it's not, right? That is very specific to your cloud provider or a cluster. Like for example, this won't work in a way that's useful for notebooks on kind out of the box because you'd have to do a complex port forwarding situation to make that work.
Yes.
And so that's fine. We can have this
So yeah, I
fixed.
guess I just wasn't sure if we do this, how are we like the tests? The tests are running on a GitHub runner though, right? Like, so how do the tests call these APIs?
So the way that you usually do it is running a job. So like so the way that the end-to-end test and the controller work to connect to the notebooks pod and make sure it's accessible. Like again, it doesn't actually connect over Istio because the controller doesn't have Istio, but like
Right.
it pings and says, is the notebook running? It just does a wget, right? It runs a Kubernetes job which does wget. So that is obviously a problem for Istio though, because that will be in the mesh by default, and obviously the gateway can't be talked to by things. It's complicated, right? You know, so like but the gateway the operator it should be fine. Like a kind you can just effectively port forward the kind to make it a node port, something like that. You know, it's make because so that's actually an important thing to that's why I'm saying, but that's dependent on the ingress gateway's config, right? That's why it's like it's not there's no commonality there. That's dependent on how you want to do it, right? Because there's two aspects to a gateway for Istio. Here's a crash course in Istio. There's the gateway service, which includes the deployment. Like that's the actual pods that are actually they're the things that are actually processing something. Then there's the gateway CRD. That is a virtual concept that other virtual things attached to, which can exist on which can exist on what, I don't know if it can be more than one, but that has a label selector on pods, just like a service. But that's not actually, the gateway CRD is just a config helper. Effectively, it tells Istio how to configure itself. It's to configure its envoy proxy, because like the way Istio works is just a bunch of envoy proxies talking to each other with a common config. So anyway, for our Istio test, it should be relatively straightforward though. Let's just use this approach, similar to what we were saying here, but not exactly like this, doing it more automated. If Istio was already installed, don't install it. If it's and that's also why we need to create a new gateway as well as a separate step. You know what I mean? And with a random name. You know what I mean? Like with a. It also is great to use a random name because the Kubeflow has the gateway already. The label selector is the thing that needs to be custom, right? Effectively, I think, and as part of a test, that's really good because if we test, should we just hard code the Kubeflow gateway name? Yeah, probably. It's probably fine for now. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So I'd say if it wasn't installed already, install it. if it wasn't installed, sorry, if it was installed, don't install it. Just assume it's correct, and maybe have a if version less than don't fail. You know what I mean? Like maybe say if it's too old or whatever. But or maybe yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. And because
That's,
then
and
you
like
can
I said,
also
nothing's
just,
gonna.
and then
This
what
is
you
really
do
just
then, by the
greasing
way,
the wheels for then Harshad to come in and use it when he then does PR 500. So we could always clean that up then. But I'd like to
also
just have that core work there.
also to be clear though, that by having it pre-installed, skipping it, that means that it's just for when you're running it locally. But also, if you remember, I think we might actually do this in the Notebooks v2 tests already for the backend, for the controller, sorry, where we just install Cert Manager as one of the steps, right? Oh no, we don't. But you could, right? What I'm saying is you could do this, install Istio, install kind of like, and then have it just set it up. You know what I mean? And then the only setup that it would need to do maybe is create a gateway or something. You know, like that's kind of, or maybe not. Maybe we do that as well here. You know, like it's because it's a question of if you want to iterate over lots of different tests. You know, like that's just how it uh like what I'm yeah, it's just if rather than running make end to end a bunch of times on things. Anyway, who knows? This comes more relevant once we actually do a full end to end as well as the main one. But okay. So all we need to do though is just have the controller be Istio aware. So let's just start with getting a PR in. I don't know if there's any specific questions you have here.
Yep. So that's good. So I'll get that
I think
written
we
up.
made an issue, right? Didn't we? Did we have an issue? Oh, we didn't actually make an issue.
I
For that, right?
haven't. I wanted to identify this key decision before writing up an issue. So yes, I will get that. I will get that written up. The next thing I wanted to ask about, because we've talked about this in the past, workspace counts. Right now, the count is just total. 15 workspaces are part of this workspace kind. We discussed in the past about like running paused error other style states, and I bring this up because it's low-hanging fruit that somebody could look at, like, but I don't know how
So
you.
there's a scaling reason why we didn't do that though. I wanted because of the way. No, actually, that should be fine. So the question is just like where would this be needed? Because every time when the front end, like the only time when you need that information, you already have every other workspace in memory as well.
That's
Like
fair. I mean, we had just talked about this in the past. You had said that,
so we only
just
so
the
that we
number of workspaces isn't that useful. If we're going to
no
rely on the
the number
front
it's
end to
really
have this
useful.
in memory, should we just remove the count? Like, I don't
No,
understand.
the count is there. The count is actually used, and this is really important to know. The count is used as part of the webhook.
Okay, so if we want the breakdown, so then maybe the answer is just the front end shouldn't rely on, even though we merge
No,
that
it's
code.
not. It's not intended to be. That status is not intended to be used by the front end. No, definitely not.
Okay, so we should just
The
have the
back
front
end can
end.
do things though. The back end can do things, but the back end already does its own count, right? We already did that PR. We literally merged that PR.
Right, but I'm saying like I don't know what purpose. Oh, I'm sorry. You're saying in the back end, we could have the back end API return that structure with the states, or are you saying just calculate this all in the front end?
No, that's what I'm saying. If you need to do something computationally expensive that would benefit from caching, do it in the back end.
Okay. Do you
But
have issue with doing that breakdown in the back end?
it depends on what. Like it shouldn't be necessary because we're already sending every JSON object, workspace object to the front end. Like they should just be able to do it. Like when's the context when this is necessary? You know what I mean? Like think about it from, it should be taken on a case by case basis as to where this should be pushed to. But I suspect there won't be a case that the backend needs to do it. Maybe there is. I don't know. But
So, I mean,
what's
fundamentally, it's for end users, right? As we've discussed, just how many workspaces are associated isn't really that useful to users. It's how many are actually running, how many are errored, and whatever other states we feel like tracking, right? And so,
well, let's do it in the context of the workspace kind overview page, right? Like that's the actual page that's relevant here, right? Because on an end user basis, they shouldn't see that information. You know what I mean? They should only see the ones that they have access to in that profile that they're currently looking at. But on the only time when it covers the whole cluster is on the workspace kind overview page, right?
yes.
So in that case, that page always sends well, it doesn't always send every workspace, but I guess there's an outer page where it doesn't. So if that outer page if there's ever a page when we don't have the full workspace table for the workspace kind that you're currently looking at, then we might need to push to the backend. But otherwise, what's happening is just the backend already sends all the workspaces, like as part of the step to get the workspace kind overview page, you're running it just to get workspaces, right? List workspaces, I think. So anyway, I don't think there's any, is there a discussion that I have, or I mean, is there a question?
Well, I mean, so if we want this breakdown of states, that we can just do it in the front end, I think is the takeaway you're saying.
Yeah, and if there's a piece of information missing or it seems crazy for some reason, then we can look at putting it into the backend. But I don't.
Okay.
Because
Thank
don't
you.
forget, the front end never talks to the CID. It doesn't know about the CID
Right.
at all. Yeah, so like
Right.
the CID is implementation detail to the controller, not to, and the backend is the only thing that has to deal with that. And it chooses not to right now, I think, right? Or does it? I don't think it
chooses not to in what regard, sorry?
I don't think it touches that current workspace kind status field, is what I'm saying. I don't think it even looks at it, the backend.
I mean, we do that cluster metrics workspaces count attribute.
Oh, but that's actually on the get workspace kind, I think.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So like that, and that is helpful because at that layer, when you're listing workspace kinds, yeah, that's probably the only number I care about. I mean, maybe I do care about the status of them, but that feels expensive to calculate. But
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's not. Like it could accumulate them. The only reason I didn't do it was because the controller only needed it to run the webhook, and yeah, it's not like you couldn't add it. But it also means there'll be a lot more updates. There'll be a crazy amount of updates on the workspace kind CRD resource. That's the only kind of
Right, because now status, like the overall number could remain the same, but status changes would cycle through that. So it's probably the front end
that's
is
why I avoided that. But like
yes.
if there's a need for it, it's not like the controller can't do it. It just
Okay, no, I think the only need I really or the only use case I see relevant is really in the front end, right? And I mean that can, like you say, trivially.
the only question is it like, do we ever care about it in the context of when you're looking at all the workspace kinds in the cluster? Probably not, right? The number
Correct.
is sufficient. Then it's like when I'm looking at Jupyter Lab workspace kind, then I'm like, okay, I definitely want to see the status breakdown of all these ones when I'm looking at that because
Yes, sorry,
that's
yes,
just
and that's my I'll level set with Paulo on that, but that's my expectation. So,
yeah. And then at that point, as soon as you're in that page, you already are doing the list all workspaces anyway in that kind. So
yes,
you can just
okay.
group by on the front end.
Okay,
Or
no, this was a good discussion there. Thank you. I can take that from there. And then the next discussion is kind of a bit of a longer one, so I don't know if you have time, Matthew, but
I probably have like 10 minutes right now, probably before I really need to go.
all right. All right, I'm gonna share and let's see what we get through.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing mine then. Do we want to stop recording, or do you even want to?
Yeah, we can. I mean, no, it's fine. We can like. There's nothing. This is probably good to talk about.
Does anyone else have anything really pressing that's blocking them that need to bring up right now? Okay. Nope. Yes. Anyone? Hello? Maybe. Okay, cool.
All right, let me make my screen bigger. All right, can you see my screen? I think so.
Yep.
Metric support. So, this is vibe coded, but I stand by kind of what it's calling out here. So this is about exposing a metric server within, and we're not talking about GPUs right now. This is only CPU and memory utilization, right? And so it's like we want CPU and memory util, clearly needs to be, low latency, avoid stampedes and backend overloads, detect metric server being present or not, and then kind of caching so we're not like literally hitting the back end the entire time. So that was kind of like this, like, this is our BFF, a metrics cache. We could do a provider if we want to, Prometheus versus metric server. My thought is we would only support metric server initially. Availability probe to
This
understand
is
if
free. This is pretty much free. Like controller runtime already has all this, right? Like the mostly. Like effectively all that's happening is that the backend needs to integrate with the metric server. And because thankfully we are using controller runtime, that's very common, right? That's a very common use case for controllers to need to connect to the metric server. So
but do we? I thought we had this whole discussion where we don't. I mean, caching here, right? So use an uncached client or like.
So the metrics API, the way that you get the metrics is by doing a get on a CRD that doesn't actually exist, right? Isn't that how you do it? Like that or do a watch. You can also do a watch, right? So there must be a controller runtime thing built in to do for CPU, and that's what I'm saying for pods. There just has to be, right? It would be, or it's actually a container resource. It's not a pod resource. But let me just confirm: controller runtime pod metrics. Technically, it's container metrics. So, so that's the exposing metrics, which is separate. This is the other way around. We need metrics collection of some kind. This should be a relatively trodden path, is my suspicion. And then the question becomes still what you're saying, which is how does the front end get it? Well, it doesn't. What all it's going to do is when it does, the only time when the metrics matter is on the list workspaces page, right? You know, that's we already have the column for it. We just aren't populating it. Which is usage of memory, usage of thing, which has to, the only sensible source for that is the a thing. And then there's another question, which is obviously once we have the nice detail overview page, you've clicked on a workspace. On the sidebar, you're going to want to see maybe a chart of usage over time, you know, or something like that. And so I'm
much less interested. I mean, that use case is valid, but I would like to just like get like basic integration.
Yeah, because to do that, we're going to need to use Prometheus and scrape it. And at that point, it's like,
Yes.
okay, that's getting a bit crazy because you can only get instantaneous measurements, right? That's
right.
the problem.
And so right now, the epic I wanted to write was just scope to point in time. We know like long term, absolutely Prometheus has its play, but I don't want to bite that off
At
now.
very least, what we could do though is have for the ones that you are currently looking at, we just don't throw away the old data. So like every time you do a get, you know what I mean? Like every 5 seconds, or it's not really frequently enough. But
But
anyway,
it's like, but because we're doing it on the list page, right? Like that's like could be like sizable.
like the question is just whether the backend is going to internally cache. But then there could be multiple replicas of the backend. Yeah, we would need to run a Prometheus sidecar. That's kind of the problem. And at that point, it's like I really think that is getting crazy. You know what I mean? Like we might end up having to do that, frankly, for many reasons. But in the short term, though, again, there's like we actually only care about instantaneous measurements, right? So
All right, and so
effectively,
your technical guidance here is look for a well-trodden path with controller runtime to do this as kind of the whole solution. So you don't need to mess around with your own, you know, whatever rate limiting and caching and like staleness and all that jazz. You think that that should probably just exist, and I'll do some more
well, no,
research.
so the controller, so there's the first option is that the actual, so um, so there's two places that could be captured from, right? The controller itself could store this in the status field or something, which I think is probably a bad idea. I think that, you know what I mean? I think it's probably a bad idea because the pod exists and you can just touch the pod, right?
Yes.
And we have a field in the status for the controller that tells you which pod to look at anyway. So, you know,
Yes.
for this, well, actually, that was for logs, but because logs are actually another case that's similar to this, but they have a lot more data, so it's actually not that similar. Because the only thing that's expensive is that deciding when the backend, because effectively, I don't think list like watching pod metrics controller, is that a thing you can do? Like just watching metrics?
No, we looked into this in the past, right? It does not support watch.
Metrics doesn't support watch. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I guess that makes sense because you're only taking an instantaneous measurement.
Right.
Yeah, what is it? Not CID, what's it called? Metrics reference. It's that's not right. Where did we find it in the end? Did we list it somewhere? I'm trying to, so we don't have to find it again. It's really not a super well documented thing. Metrics pipeline. Okay, so yeah, effectively, you can get node metrics. It's interesting, but that is actually an interesting thing we might also want to do, capture the node that the pod is running on. But the memory metric server kubelet. So you can get a resource summary, because like what's the most efficient way, however we do it, for the controller to get the metrics of every pod in a namespace effectively, or for the ones that it cares about? Like, is there an efficient way to do that? That's the part that
for the controller to do it.
well, no, not the controller. The
Back end.
back end, yeah. The controller
And
might
so,
also
yes,
at
that's
some
where I
point,
was
but
going in this document that I was sharing. I mean, but it's like complicated, which is why I wanted to talk with you about it. Of like, you could do like in-memory caches with, a bunch of, bells and whistles to make it performant, but like that's a lot of custom code.
yeah. So um so there so there is a couple of projects which already do something very similar to this. Mainly, like there's one that's called K9S, which is a CLI tool for things. So obviously they would have a code path for this exact purpose. I don't know how efficient they are though, but maybe they are. They're written in Go as well, so we can maybe look at that. But I don't think they use controller runtime. The controller runtime though must have some kubectl has some code here. Interestingly, like for top, kubectl top. Uh, Because effectively, we need to have a metric server installed on the cluster, which is fine. Uh, but then the way you access the metric server is through the Kubernetes paths from that point forward, right? Not through the
Yes,
metric server.
correct.
So effectively, monitoring pipeline fetches metrics from the kubelet. Uh, So I'm just gonna share what I'm seeing here. So it's like, yes, we might need to do some of what you're describing here. I don't know, but like it feels like this should be something that other people have solved, right? Like it's or Kubernetes itself, right? That's like always the when in doubt, sometimes the best path is to pull from Kubernetes itself. But in this case, I don't know if it will, because so this is another factor, right? Like maybe we do need to use Prometheus, right? You know what I mean? Like that's like maybe that is just like the immediate like we're never going to avoid this, so we just might as well do it. You know what I mean? Like maybe that is the like or some exporter kind of thing. Like I don't know. Like it's because we need to store the database and like in a database. That's the problem, right? Like it's like if we wanted to store it, it's because the only complexity is just like um when you do a first list on a resource in the backend right now, it will be watching them forever, right? But the question becomes, when do we actually want? Because all we need to do, maybe to clarify for people, what we actually need to do is just have it so that when you do a get on a workspace, it gives you the metric in the set as part of the payload for the backend, right? It gives you whatever metrics you care about instantaneously, so that when you do a list workspaces in a thing, it shows you the metrics you care about. And so that means the backend just needs to have like the most trivial way is literally just having it do the metric as part of the problem is that's kind of going to be slower, right? If we do it because it's a list, it could be a lot of them.
Right, it's the list workspaces call, so it's like you're hitting multiple workspaces to reconcile them to their pods, which then
It
you
must
probably
be
want to aggregate that up to the deployment. Um,
it must be possible to get multiple with a single call, right? That's uh like I always forget how you freaking do it. What is interesting? Metrics for system components, no Kubernetes metrics, external API for pod metrics
yeah, so it's
list.
just pod and node, right? So you need to kind of like roll up at because it wouldn't make sense to us. The workspace is just like, yes, probably there's only going to be a single pod in the workspace, but like workspace is technically a stateful set, right? So it's like any pods under there would need to roll up.
So So pod metrics list is this. So this is a list of this CID, but like, how do you get one of these? Do you just do a? Like, is it possible to just? Well, I guess we should just search pod metrics list in Kube Builders. It's obviously a kind of a complicated problem, right? Like usually the reason this is not a big problem is that the way that most applications interact with this is either as a scraper to just store into some external database, or which just uses Prometheus exporters or something, and or the user actually is just calling. It must be possible to do efficiently because they're like it's like when you do a get. When you do a list pods, there's many tools which do add the metrics in there. You know what I mean? Like that's so like how are they doing that efficiently? Like K9s can do thousands and thousands of these, right? You know what I mean? The user is obviously making the calls directly. Is kubectl probably top? Like kubectl top does seem like a, you know, this code base must be doing something efficiently. You know what I mean? But of course, it's slightly different in this case because there could be 20, like there could be 50 people or 50 tabs looking at the exact same page. So backend should only do it. Like there should be like a metrics. There's also like there's like just like a DDoSing kind of problem where it's like uh by the time so that we can actually meet our latency targets for the list workspaces, we can't be doing the metrics query then, you know, probably, right? I mean, like that's fundamental. Like in the same way that we don't do the workspace list then, right? You know, we've already got it all in memory. We're just pulling it out of a cache, right? And so there's a separate out of band loop, which is just getting the latest information from workspaces. I think probably we're gonna have to do the same thing. I feel like, are we sure it's not possible to do a like what is the action? Is it? It's not, you can't do a watch though. Yeah, that's what you're saying, right? You
Right.
can't.
Yeah. There's no watch. Yeah.
Uh, so then you just do a get on this though, right? That is actually how you do it, or am I missing something? Uh,
I'm trying to find my old notes where I was experimenting with this, but I'm failing.
I think we wrote it at some point as well, but I just obviously we can look at the interesting the like Kubernetes get CPU usage of pod. That's just probably. I mean, this is probably the easiest way to look at this, obviously, but
I thought there was it's the metrics server, right? And then that exposes like an endpoint.
yeah, but no, it's still on the Kubernetes API, right? Like, so effectively, yeah, right. That's Node ones, but metrics API.
Yeah, so it's I mean, just keep me on. Am I barking here? I'll put in chat. It's like this.
This is
Where's
nodes. I
chat?
want pods in this case. Yeah, here we go.
So
So like,
this,
you just literally do this, right? You literally just do one of these.
yes. Yes. And so you're just so check K9s, kubectl, or controller runtime to see if there's examples of doing this efficiently, being mindful of, you know, thundering herd, caching, efficiency, all that jazz.
So like, the thing that we're testing for is just in the interim, in the same way that we'll probably require people to use a specific one for GPUs, that the metric server exists. You know what I mean? Like this is the implementation that everyone looks at, which is the one that's actually registering this. You know what I mean? Like this,
Right.
like so this like this thing here. You know what I mean? Like this Like, interesting. Interesting. In such cases, please collect metrics from the kubelet. That's what we're saying. Yeah. That's correct. Metrics resource, is that not what this was? No, it's not. Okay, so we're
That's
not looking at the right. That makes sense because like that's not the path that I was expecting, right? You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah.
it should be metrics resource, which is this one, which is node level.
Which doesn't really help us in the scope of workspaces.
ERI container metrics. Oh, interesting. It's like summary source. I do need to go soon, but this is interesting that because like this, that's what I'm saying. This doesn't feel scalable, right? That's my like the but like this is where I was saying like because what's actually happening is the metrics server. Well, it says up here, right? It's because container metrics is actually the thing, is like these are C groups in the end. C groups expose their current utilization, which is how these metrics are getting pulled. The kubelet should be pulling that as well, right? There's no reason why the kubelet shouldn't be pulling that. The question is, when you interesting. Wait, node agent from running resource makes it accessible under that. So like that's the part that I'm trying to get my head around. Like, is there a pod specific one, right? On that path, right? You know, this like metrics resource, you know, it feels like there isn't, but let me like wait. No. It feels like there might be wait. Okay, there's only one way to find it. Let's go to the actual Kubernetes API spec. Sometimes it's the only way. Beginning with this metric server queries, kubelet endpoint, not summary, sure. Pressure still inflation, interesting. So if we go to like this one, this is it's again because that's the metrics again. Kubernetes is designed to run web services. Like its intention. The only reason you would want metrics usually is for web services, and monitoring is a separate concept, right? But there's no. It's not a difficult. Like it can also another complexity is that it's obviously a container-based thing as well, but that's separate. You know, like it's not actually because pods can contain multiple containers. Metric spec auto scaling. Yeah, that's interesting, right? But this because like the question is just like what is the method by which you are meant to do this? Wait, it's yeah, because normally you do this, right? You know what I mean? That's what that's node metric still though. But
Right.
this one is pod, right? So this is great. This is exactly what we need, right? And it's obviously these are not. I don't think that Kubernetes is going to have any other way of pulling this information. Is my suspicion. You know what I mean? Like that's and everyone else also when they're doing their CLI based tools usually assumes. Wait, so how does kubectl top work though? Yeah, requires metric server, right? So that they're using it for this purpose. That's I think they're just being dramatic. Uh, like if we go, oh, there we go. Here's a fun command for checking if that's available as well.
Okay, so yeah, can you just because I'm lazy, can you just paste that link into chat and then let me re-review this and I'll bring this
Yeah, so
back forward.
it is a difficult problem. the issue then becomes, even if we are scraping it, how do we efficiently scrape it? I suspect we should do a mutator on the cache. No, that's painful.
But like, if you can't, if there's no watch, I thought the cache relied on watches.
No, like, no, what I'm saying is there's like, if a controller runtime works internally by storing things in memory, you can have a mutator on the process to store it in memory. The issue is that the way that we're so the current update the cache process, the way it works internally in controller runtime is we do a list on workspaces. And the problem is that the list on workspaces is just being updated through a list watch, you know what I mean? But if we only updated the metrics whenever another change happened on the status of the workspace, that isn't particularly sensible, right? It's more of a
Right.
It's more of a well, the first time we discover, it's just like, how do we not spam the cluster, right? That's the primary, the how do people safely do this normally? You know what I mean? Like, where, if you were trying to get the pod metrics for every single pod in the cluster, we already do this kind of, so like, yeah, because it doesn't make any sense to store it in the status of the workspace, because if we did that, it would take 5 seconds. Like, what interval? What doesn't even make sense?
Yes.
The It's an interesting question. I'll have to think about it.
And so yeah, and related, and that's fine. I knew we weren't going to like solution this today or anything, but could we get a discussions tab on Kubeflow notebooks to start like tracking stuff like this? I think that's better than me like pinging in Slack. And or are you hesitant to do that? And where should I start doing these write-ups and capture these things? Because like we need to have a similar, discussions on calling.
It should be issues. This should be issues. These should be discussed in issues. Like that's like fundamentally like the discussions tab becomes a support tool. I'm not saying we
Okay.
shouldn't have it, but I don't necessarily think it's for this kind of discussion, right? Like this discussion should happen in Slack meetings and issues for more formal discussions. Discussions are usually used as like a questions by users kind of situation. People can also use Google Docs for this kind of stuff, like where they write up a proposal. Normally it's in the context of a proposal, like, and then people can make comments and things. Like, I don't see how discussions help in this case, because discussions are just a threaded question and answer system made for GitHub issues. As effectively, it's an alternative to GitHub issues when it's just
Well, I guess
issues.
like my thought, like, I mean, I don't want to create an issue for this because it's the outcome of this discussion that will let me write up a GitHub issue. But if we want to just create like
100%,
tasks.
your proposal ones, like, so open source usually works by people making an idea and then having a discussion about it, you know what I mean? And then that, and how people build things in general, right? Like, things don't need to be perfect to have a design doc, right? They could be iterative processes. But of course, we're not doing processes for processes' sake. So like, as soon as we have an outcome, we should write up how we're going to do it based off the design that we're thinking is going to work, which is an issue, right? At that point, that's just an issue. So, or because if it's a complicated design doc, like like in this particular case, for example, it doesn't hurt us to, like, effectively, we just need to list out ideas of things we could, like generic approaches we could take, and then figure out which one's the right path forward, and then try that path forward and make a proper design for that, and then do it. Like, most features are not this complex, but
I think there's a handful that we need to solve that will be, right. Events and logging follows suit in some of this stuff. But like we have to start solutioning these, right? So I'm just like looking for the right way to bring this up and drive it to resolution, right? Like,
so obviously the nuclear option is obviously to not show metrics in the list workspaces page, right? That's obviously the uh, you know, like that. The other option is pretty straightforward. It's just to have the for it's just very painful, right? It's like we could effectively just have a. It's not that bad actually, but like just effectively just have the backend every 5 seconds get the status, get the metrics of every pod that it cares about. You know what I mean? Like effectively, you know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
there is no option other than that. That is just how these APIs are designed. That's how they're designed to be used. You know what I mean? Like as far as I can tell, like the metric server thing that it's saying don't do that for is funny, I think. Obviously, a more scalable metrics exporter is. But the fact is, most clusters only have the metric. That's the only thing we know they have. You know what I mean? Yeah, for
Yes.
unsupported use cases, we could use Prometheus exporting. You know what I mean? Like, but then people might already have that. It's not too bad. We could honestly do that, but that's kind of where I was coming at. I was like, eh, I'm not against it. Like, I think yeah, it's at very least what we should have is the get workspace API or the detail, whatever one does that details page. If there's a separate one, right now there isn't a separate one for that. So you know what I mean. Uh, there could be one for metrics. You know what I mean. But then like, what's the value to the user? The value to the user. What is the value to the users? It's kind of helpful to see what the C groups claim to be using. Right. That is quite from a CPU perspective, and certainly from a GPU perspective, that's very helpful. But then to solve the GPU one, really you want to see timelines of this. Like a single instantaneous measurement is not a particularly useful thing. Like so averaging, the only useful thing might be an average, you know what I mean? It's like probably if the backend does anything in the short term, it should be averaging, right? It should be saying average utilization over last 5 minutes, and it determines that using its own thing, maybe by straight up importing from some Prometheus code, you know what I mean? Like or something like that to that effect, right? There is going to be an efficient way of, but it's all going to be in memory. I mean, it's not going to remember. It's so like when the problem is that then if there's multiple backend replicas, then it won't store all of them together, you know what I mean? Which is why having Prometheus there and then having the backend query Prometheus might be the more sensible approach. And then also we could say if your users, if you already have Prometheus set up with an exporter for these metrics, we can just connect to that, you know what I mean? That's unlikely that you do, but okay, I do need to go, but if we think about it, I think maybe start thinking about logs first. Think about how you're going to do logs, and then that will answer some of the problem, I think. You know what I mean? Because there's complexity in retrieving. Nah, that's not about list workspaces. But anyway, similar, right? Like I think logs will help unblock some of the more complex questions around how big queries did. Nah, yeah, either is fine. The problem is just that instantaneous measurements aren't that useful. So I think probably fundamentally, like the question that people are trying to answer is, are they using it, right? And there are other useful questions you can ask with metrics, like, are they effectively utilizing the resources that they've been allocated? But that is a much more complicated question that is not answerable in this context. And that's not usually the question that the user is asking. That's a question that their admin is asking, right?
Right.
So like the user is mainly asking, does my workload crash or something like that? You know what I mean? Or did I forget? Did I leave something running? You know what I mean? Like that's um and so Uh, the first option is that the backend, the controller just does this. Like the simplest way might be that if the problem is that will still cause updates, but like average utilization over the last X period, it's a bit messy having it in the status of each one. I don't really like that, but
Yeah.
it's at least it wouldn't be lost then. But it's no, it's that's not good. Yeah, okay. like also there's a chance that when you instantaneously capture a utilization, wait, there's a metric for like average utilization there, isn't there? Like I'd have to check, but uh, so yeah, in terms of workspace, the backend itself, what we would need to do is store a memory cache of queries. Like, so actually that, because remember, that's how the horizontal pod autoscaler works, right? It stores in the horizontal pod autoscaling thing as like probes, right? It's like it's storing the probes somewhere. Uh, where is that actually stored? Wait, no, wait. Like the status field of this, current metrics, last metric status array. It's like this is there, but then like, how does it know the last? How does it know averages? That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, there's one of these common things is like, when you the way that the algorithm works, I know from internal is that they aggregate averages. Like the way that the algorithm is always very, it's complicated. I always remember how to do it, but it's
Yeah. Okay. I'll probably create some sort of design doc somewhere to come back on this and maybe pivot to try to start to do something. I just don't know if like, our working group calls, which always run late, like, we have like a lot of these kind of gnarly things to figure out, and it's not clear when
so
we're gonna
usually
like.
so usually these sort of problems are solved by contributors. I mean, like usually, if we need a discussion, that's fine. But like the
But
usually
like
someone will come
Matthew,
with a
do you think
proposal.
like I mean just like honestly there, right? If someone just randomly opened it, like I feel like I'd love to get you out of the middle here, but I think it's like a kind of a chicken and egg thing of getting a contribution that aligns with your vision. I think is
Not
challenging
my
on a lot
vision
of
in
these
this case.
things.
It's not. It's more like if a solution, yeah, like a proposal of how to do it then is discussed by everyone. You know what I mean? Because I'm not the blocker. It's everyone should be contributing to that discussion. But like a fully formed proposal is usually required to even have a discussion, right? Obviously, early on for features that we want to exist, we're kind of shortcutting that process a little bit. But um, Kubernetes would close a cap that doesn't describe exactly how you plan to do this. Like, for example, if you had this exact problem, right? That'd be
Like
like,
to my credit here, not to be, and I know you have to go,
you
but
did
like
have
I
it, yeah.
did write up a fully formed
Yep,
proposal,
yep,
and the
yep, yep.
response was, well,
Put
we
it in
should
the
just
issue.
use controller runtime. So it's like I feel like you need to be writing these, or like
No, no,
I'm
no, no, no.
struggling on how to go forward.
No, no, no.
Like
I
I
agree.
want
I
to
agree.
help.
Good feedback. Good feedback. I think the best way to get a response might be in that case. Like, if you just wanted feedback on your proposal, that's a separate discussion. But like, we need to have like a concrete implementation as well. Like that. This is sort of one that actually the theory of like, oh, we should do caching. It's like, of course we should, but like, how, right? You know what I mean? Like the question is like, okay, no, I'm going to in this code path make this change is kind of what this needs to be in this particular case, which is like normally that's not the case. But like, yeah, anyone in their dog could be like, yeah, we should cache these things, of course, right? Right. But like, and in fact, we can benefit from the fact that controller runtime already has a caching based system internally. The uh, there needs to be a separate controller running on the back end, effectively, is what we're saying here. Like, effectively, this is going to need to be this is going to be the first actual controller running on the back end. Interestingly, great that we've got controller runtime. because right now we're only using controller runtime to just get the benefits of the list watch cache client.
Right.
But this actually needs the controller. Like this is where the
Okay,
loop.
and so that, I mean, that in and of itself helps, right? So I was trying to like think of like the way I was going was this like lazy on API call, but that brings a lot of
You can't do
complexity
that.
to
That's
make
not
that
how that
scale.
from like architecturally that's wrong, because like it's not the query to the cluster is not driven by the query from the API for the user. You know what I mean? Like it is,
Yes.
there needs to already be in memory everything I need to answer the question. And so the only way to make that happen is to have, and so this is where like but the loop is not based off a watch in the same way that the controller is doing it. It's based off and the problem is the thing we're watching actually in this case is, well, it's nothing. Actually, there's no watching anything. We have effectively have a maybe the solution here is a if not status field secondary metric CRD that lives alongside that is reconciled by the controller. You know what I mean? Like that is uh it's such a complicated solution to a simple, what seems like a simple problem though, but like, because like what we're gonna have to do in the, because it means that we can also store the state. What I'm saying is we don't lose the state when the backend comes, right? And it's like next query, kind of like this, like in the same way they've got these horizontal pod autoscalar metrics. You know what I mean? Like, uh, like what I would like, yeah, I need to go, but
Yep, that's fine. We'll
so like,
continue.
so the two paths I would explore are a, ironically, metrics control loop in the backend. I don't like it because I don't know where it's storing the information other than in memory. Like it's fine. It's like it just means that also the information is inconsistent across replicas of the backend. Uh,
Which for point in time, I'm not sure that's a problem. Obviously, any sort of historical analysis probably leads us down Prometheus,
well, it
but
just means that multiple backend rep. The issue is we need to support multiple backend replicas, and we already DDoS the cluster by doing multiple list watches, so that's fine, I guess. But I guess adding another one isn't that bad. But it's
yeah,
for every pod. But so yeah, let's start with that. Like I'd say the starting point and for other things that need monitoring, it feels like it should be in the controller, obviously, but like it shouldn't, right? Because it's not really
I
relevant.
agree.
Because there is going to be other things, like the culling controller is there as well, which is already, no, that's not doing metrics though. But like, you know, the it's just I worry that if we put it in the back end, we're going to end up needing to move it to the controller. You know what I mean? That's my only worry. But because they're so compatible, it probably isn't a big issue. So pretty much what you do is have a control loop. So horrible. That looks a lot like the culling controller, which is whose purpose is to no, because like their control loops are really, I mean, they have to be a control loop. Like it has to be in the, effectively it just has to be looping and storing in memory all of the metrics that it would need to ever be able to return, right? You know what I mean? Like that's, and I think possibly this should be done as a CRD then. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I was like, and then we just go back to putting it in the workspace status. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not
Okay.
against doing that. Like, if you can come with a proposal for that, like as to like the trade-offs between those two options, I think those are the two clear options, right? It's like
And so
some
sorry, but the CRD would be per workspace?
no, so like it's either just in the workspace status or it's in
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a whole separate CRD driving this metrics collection bit.
no. So there's another option as well, but
Okay.
that's another option as well. It's not what I was more saying. Like, one option is just to straight up put the status in the workspace status, like effectively have average CPU utilization last 5 minutes, average, uh, which if as long as it's averages are cumulative, right? So
Right.
effectively, if the controller ever loses memory of the and we know there's only ever going to be one of those running at a time. So because of the way they work. So like it feels like that's the only option. You know what I mean? Like that. It
And
really.
I know you have to go, but this. Sorry, can you just in 5 seconds explain the CRD point again? I was missing where you were going
No,
with
so
that
that was
one.
a separate idea. Of like, oh, maybe we should have a CRD that's storing this, but at that point, just put it in the bloody workspace. It's silly, right? You know, like yeah. So like, the other option is obviously that the backend itself is scraping it, but now we've got an issue, which is that multiple backends can exist. They all need this information. They should just be able to list it. It's very inefficient. It's crazy. I mean, like I
Right.
think the only and so as long as we're storing it in the status, all of the workspace controlling loops that trigger based off workspace updates shouldn't do anything because their generation shouldn't change. But I'd actually need to check if we do that filter already. But the it really feels like the controller has to do this. That's what I'm saying, right? Like,
Okay, so so that is helpful. Let me work on a design doc with that proposal, and we could review that as a
well, that's
community.
trivial. Well, that's like the doing that is actually trivial. It's just that.
Not wholly trivial. If we want average over 5 minutes, you still need to implement a bit of like a sliding. I mean, it's not trivial, but there's like a little bit of a sliding window slant to the algorithm to like age out stuff, right?
Uh, it's complicated. It's complicated, right? Like you need to store. It just depends on what measurement you're actually storing as well, right? Like
Which
whether
I mean,
you're
it's all. I mean, these are all. I mean, it's essentially all the different rate limiting algorithm, like windowed rate limiting algorithms would apply here. It's just But anyways, okay. I'll write something down. We'll talk
and this
about
is
it
the
later,
and
and
then
I'll
we need
think
to
about logs.
evaluate whether this is worth that feature. You know, I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? And whether this instead should just be a front end polling the back end that proxies to the metrics on a per user session basis for a specific part of workspace when it's open. You know what I mean? Like on the sidebar, right? Like the minimal version of this, which is just straight up the same as how logs work. Effectively, make it the same as logs, right? Whereas you lose it all information that you had from before you opened the page because it's not there. No one was getting it. The information is stored in the front end. You know what I mean? And then, or the browser, and then anyway, I need to go. But
Yep.
okay,
Thank you,
so
sir.
let's think about it. But yeah, guys.